Hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the podcast. We're finally streaming. Yee! Well, I actually did try to stream it before, but then it didn't work. So, really hoping this works out. Honestly, I'm just going to post it, even if it isn't great. But welcome. If you're new here, this is my Pillow Talk podcast. I'm Kyla, and basically, the vibe here is just like a sleepover. So, it's not really about pillow talk, but I be chatting about my pillows. So that's kind of the vibe, that's that point of a sleepover where you're supposed to be sleeping, but then you just end up chatting about anything deep, and that's the goal. So let's get into it today. But also don't forget, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube at Kyle Guy. And be sure to follow my Instagram to keep connected because I definitely like to update everybody on that Instagram page. So without further ado, um, I've been wanting to talk about my biggest lesson from 2025 because I've had to carry it into my life a lot. And I feel like people don't talk about this enough. And even if people do, like, I feel like I have heard a lot about protecting your energy and protecting your peace, but I never really understood it. Like, I understood, yeah, not hanging out with the people that you don't resonate with and, all the basic stuff about it that gets um, put on the internet. But I've had to experience implementing it in a much more realistic way that I think a lot of people do need to get used to. So I want to talk about that. Basically, in 2025, I was very exposed again to people basically with like the opposite beliefs and values of me. And, for the most part, it was just like the normal, pretty much harmless stuff. Um, but on a newer side, I also got exposed to a very like targeted sense of it. So like someone that will just like say anything to get a reaction out of me, which I've never really been used to before. Um, so that was obviously not a vibe. And I have had to learn a lot from it because it was also the case of like most people would be like, okay, if people around you have like different values to you, then you should just cut them off or whatever. But it was one of those cases that I couldn't really do that. It was one of those things that I didn't really have a choice of, and I was very exposed very often. So the lesson was definitely forced on me, and to be quite honest, for most of 2025, I was so in denial of it, or I kept trying to figure out how to deal with it, and I could never get to this conclusion until like literally January this year. So I didn't even really learn this lesson in 2025, but it was what I learned from 2025, like the biggest thing I learned. So yeah, because basically I was studying away from home before that, and then in 2025 I came back, and yeah, and when I was studying away from home, my friends there were pretty much on the same level as me, and that doesn't mean we had the exact same beliefs, but I never really felt like I was fighting for my beliefs all the time or anything like that. And I never really felt like I had someone around me saying things that I totally disagreed with or anything like that. So that's what I mean. That came back when I came back home, and it was a big adjustment, especially because it wasn't just that old normal stuff. It was like a lot more intense and a lot more draining. So let's get into it. Basically, almost the whole year, I would have just like reacted and fought back in those scenarios. I don't know. I always thought to myself that, like, because I'm sure you know the feeling when someone's around you saying things that you disagree with, it you can feel it like build up in your throat chakra or your throat energy center when you're not speaking up, when you're not fighting for what you believe or speaking your truth or whatever. You can literally feel it build up. And so I always thought like me just being quiet and allowing it to happen is like being complacent and just trying to keep the peace. And, those are the bad reasons for keeping quiet, right? But I realized that, especially with these kind of people, the people that they're not actually just saying things harmlessly, whatever, they're saying things to get a reaction out of the people that disagree. They don't actually want to have a conversation. They are very set in their ways, and to be quite honest, they're not even trying to get a message across. They're just trying to get your reaction. So when you react, they don't care what you're saying. They're just like, you reacted. I'm happy. So then all it does, it doesn't change anything, what you say. It doesn't change the situation, it doesn't change their beliefs or anything like that. And they get happy and you get brought down. And that's what I've noticed. And it I also realized that with me fighting back when these people like try to push their opinions on me or anything like that, I start to become like the person I dislike. And basically what I mean is the way they are trying to push their opinion on me, now I'm trying to push an opinion on them. I'm becoming just like them. I'm becoming angry and bitter and, you know, that's not what I want at all. I don't think that's what any of us want when we're doing things like that. So it's important to be able to discern between when it's actually worth it to respond. You know what I mean? It's important to be able to distinguish when your energy is just going to go to waste and if it's just going to ruin you, or if it is actually something that the people around you are going to maybe listen and give some energy back. Because that's what a conversation is, you know, it's like listening, giving energy, giving attention, and then it's your turn to talk and you get attention and energy and whatever. And that's pretty much how a conversation goes. That's how a good conversation should go. But with these kind of things, it's more just like you talk and then they just like suck up that energy because it like they feed on it almost. And that's why you feel so drained after that kind of thing, because you got nothing back from it. Nothing changed, nothing benefited you. So that was a very tough pill to swallow for me because, yeah, like I said, I always thought that keeping quiet was worse for my energy, you know? Um, but yeah, I guess what I've realized is that when I respond, when I give good energy to something bad, something that just feeds on that, I actually feel so much worse than if I just sat there and kept quiet. I feel so much worse. I feel drained. I feel angry and bitter. Uh, it's horrible. It does not feel good. And so I would rather sit there and keep quiet. But I will get into the solutions just now that I've come up with that have happened to work for me. But um, actually, I'm going to get into the solutions now. Sorry, I have actually written a little script because with this being live, I'm a little bit more nervous that I go off track or forget what I'm talking about, you know? So if you see me look down, it's because of that. But I'm trying not to look at it much. I don't want to be reading something word for word, you know? So it's just for me to keep track of what I'm talking about. But yeah, you guys must let me know in any sort of feedback what you guys think about this way of doing the podcast. I think it's a lot more intimate. You see, I'm getting off track, but I do want to say this. I think it's a lot more intimate, and the point of this podcast is to feel like a sleepover. And at a sleepover, you're not like cutting out the mistakes that you make in a conversation, and you know. And I also like that here I can get your guys' response in real time. I know that this episode probably won't happen because it is my first time doing it, so that is also an option. Um, so yeah, you guys must just let me know because your guys' experience is the most important part. But getting back to the topic, so yeah, basically some of the solutions that I've come up with to deal with this kind of situation, um, obviously, is to not react. But if you're like me, I don't have a poker face. So when I feel something in a situation, my face shows it before I can even say it. And yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. um, but the thing is, if I don't say something, but my face still shows that I'm angry or that I'm uneasy with the situation, then that's still reacting. They're still going to be like, oh, yeah, that pissed her off. I can see it, you know? So it's actually also important. Basically, you need to remain unchanged. You need to be so solid in your foundation that you remain unchanged. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Like everything in you wants to react. But the first time I actually reacted in no way, and the person was like, oh, did she hear me? And it's like, bitch, shut the fuck up. you know? So it feels a lot better to not react because you're not feeding into it. So that's definitely the main tip. But sitting in silence can come with a price, especially if there's like an ongoing conversation happening. It's not just someone making like a random statement. If there's like an ongoing conversation happening, sitting in silence can feel like shit. It just builds up. And I don't know if anyone else experiences this kind of thing. I'm sure I can't be the only one. But when I just like sit in silence while things like that are happening, I actually get like digestive issues. My stomach starts hurting. I get gassy. It's not a vibe at all. So, well, I'm pretty sure that's just because my sympathetic nervous system is activating, and so digestion digestion is no longer important. um, so I obviously need to calm down, and that's why I actually recommend if it's something that's like ongoing, get out of there and basically just hope that it'll be over by the time you get back, right? So yeah, that can there's so many ways to get out of it. It's like especially hoping that the conversation won't last too long. But yeah, you can just go to the bathroom, even if it's for a few minutes, just, use the toilet, wash your face, move around a little, get your energy back up. Um, or just like go get something to eat, go get something to drink, or chill outside a bit, go for a little walkie walk. There's a few little things you can do just to get out of the situation, and hopefully by the time you get back, the conversation's over. If it's not, get out again. Literally keep doing it until you need to, because it really can be such a mood drainer, I guess. Especially if it's at like a party or a function or something where you're supposed to be like having a good time, and then all of a sudden there's this freaking conversation happening, and you're like, really? And then you're just so annoyed for the rest of the night because of that. So prevent that. Keep your energy high. As soon as you feel something that is like it's about to pull your energy out of you, leave. We ain't feeding into that shit in 2026. Nuh-uh. But let's say your energy was already lowered. Let's say it got to you, whatever they were saying, or maybe you weren't able to get out of the situation. Maybe you had to stay seated and had to be there. Then whenever you get a chance, my only solution is to do literally anything that can raise your energy. Anything. And I mean, there's some general things you can do, but you can also just think back to like anything you do that makes you feel good. Anything. Literally anything. It can be like messaging a loved one, or reading a short page of your book, or doing a quick meditation, doing some breath work, doing some yoga, or putting on a nice outfit, spraying perfume, lighting an incense. Like there are so many little things, but obviously there are longer things. Um, my very first time that I was like, okay, I need to basically come back to myself. I need to feel like myself again. Um, I left the situation and I went in the garden, took off my shoes. So I was walking around the garden barefoot. I started appreciating literally every life form around me. There were dogs, there were trees, my boyfriend was there were flowers, there were fish. So I was literally like appreciating everything around me. I was feeling the sun on my skin. I was humming. Literally, all of it just added up, and I swear, guys, I swear I entered some sort of meditative high state. I felt high. I was so chill, and I just never felt like speaking for the longest time. I swear, because my boyfriend, he just started like messing around with some wood, chopping it up and stuff. So I was just like appreciating what he was doing as well. And every time he'd come by me, I would just like smile and I wouldn't feel like talking. And I felt so like zen. And you know, like when you're high, you just feel like lazy, but not. I don't know how to explain that. But yo, I swear I entered some sort of meditative state. I felt so amazing. And then I just carried that energy with me for the rest of the day. So, you know, when we went back into that situation or like expose ourselves again to those people, join the conversation again, basically. Um, every time something would come up, I would just like remember what I was feeling in the garden and just like keep that feeling going, you know? So that was my biggest, I'll probably never experience something that big again in this case, but it was such a breakthrough for me. Like I realized I could bring myself back to myself so easily anytime I needed to. And yes, obviously you don't always have access to a garden and all that other stuff. That's why I say like even if it's a little thing, yeah, I think this kind of work is really important. And knowing what brings your energy up, what makes you feel good, it's so so important. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. This is information that I've needed for really long, so I hope it is helpful. I feel like it would be needed for at least someone. So let me know what you guys think about all this. If you guys have any tips, I always love to hear what you guys have to say because I know that I'm not, you know, the most well-knowledge person out there. Like everybody comes up with their own unique solutions and stuff. So I love hearing it. But yeah, if you're gonna take anything away from this, just remember there are two sides to every coin. So accepting both sides is crucial. You know, your inner peace is going to be met with like someone else's not peace. And you need to be able to accept that for yours to exist. You know, that might be a bad example, but I feel like you get the idea. You have to be able to accept that there are going to be bad energies out there because the good wouldn't exist without the bad. So, yeah. I also learned a lot more in 2025, but I think I want to talk about that in another video because it has more to do with university. Um, and yes, university taught me things academically about like health and science, but they were actually things I learned in a more general day-to-day life basis, like about imposter syndrome and confidence and all that. So I think I'll talk about that in another video because that also wasn't just 2025. So anyway, thanks so much, and I hope to hear from you guys soon. I love you.